Viewers, welcome to Loyal English Medium High School, Nagang Assam. Hey, you had listened to several horrible stories about bats. Now it's time to know about them. Bats are mammals of the order Chiroptera, with their forelimbs adapted as wings. They are the only mammals capable of true and sustained flight. Bats are more have skillful movements than birds, flying with their very long spread out digits, covered with a thin membrane, or patagium. The smallest bat, and arguably the smallest extant mammal, is Kitti's hog-nosed bat, which is 29 to 34 millimeters, 1.14 to 1.34 inches, in length, 150 millimeters or 5.91 inches across the wings and 2 to 2.6 gram in mass. The largest bats are the flying foxes and the giant golden-crowned flying fox. The second largest order of mammals after rodents. Bats comprise about 20% of all classified mammal species worldwide. These were traditionally divided into two suborders, the largely fruit-eating megabats, and the echolocating microbats. The evidence has supported dividing the order into megabats, Pterochiroptera, and microbats, Yangachiroptera. The megabats are the fruit-eating bats, whereas the microbats are echolocating bats such as Mariana fruit bats, false vampire bats or horseshoe bats and allies. Many bats are insectivores, which mean insect eaters, and most of the rest are fruit eaters. A few species feed on animals other than insects. For example, the vampire bats feed on blood. Most bats are nocturnal, and many roost in caves or other refuges. It is uncertain whether bats have these behaviors to escape predators. Bats are present throughout the world, with the exception of extremely cold regions. They are important in their ecosystems for pollinating flowers and dispersing seeds. Many tropical plants depend entirely on bats for these services. Bats provide humans with some benefits, at the cost of some threats. Bat dung has been mined as guano from caves, and used as fertilizer. Bats consume insect pests, reducing the need for pesticides. They are sometimes numerous enough to serve as tourist attractions. They carry several microorganisms which cause diseases, such as rabies, and since they are highly mobile, social, and long-lived, they can readily spread disease. The word bat was probably first used in the early 1570s. Now how the name bat derived from. An older English name for bats is flittermaus, which matches their name in other Germanic languages. For example, German Fledermaus and Swedish Fledermaus, related to the fluttering of wings. Middle English hadback, most likely cognate with Old Swedish nattbacka or night bat, which may have undergone a shift from K to T, to modern English bat, influenced by Latin blatta, which means nocturnal insect. The name Chiroptera derives from ancient Greek. Chi means hand, and pteron means wing. Some interesting facts about bats are: 1. Bats are flying mammals. 2. While others can glide, bats are the only mammals capable of continued flight. 3. There are over 1,000 different bat species. 4. Bats are nocturnal, active at night. 5. Bats see in the dark using a special skill called echolocation. Bats make noises, and wait for the sound waves to bounce back off objects. An echo. If it doesn't bounce back, then they can safely fly forward. They can tell the distance of various objects by how quickly the sound waves bounce back to them. 6. Most bats feed on insects, while others eat fruit, fish or even blood. 7. There are 3 species of vampire bats which feed solely on blood. 8. Vampire bats have small and extremely sharp teeth which are capable of piercing an animal's skin, humans included, without them even noticing. 9. Vampire bats can carry rabies, making their bites potentially dangerous. 10. Some bats live by themselves, while others live in caves with thousands of other bats. 11. Bats can live for over 20 years. 12. Pteropus bats, also known as flying foxes or fruit bats, are the largest in the world. Echolocation of bats. Echolocation means to locate objects by reflected sounds. Microbats and a few megabats emit ultrasonic sounds to produce echoes. Sound intensity of these echoes are dependent on subglottic pressure. The bat uses cricothyroid muscle to control the orientation pulse frequency, which is an important function. This muscle is located inside the larynx, and it is the only tensor muscle capable of aiding phonation. By comparing the outgoing pulse with the returning echoes, the brain and auditory nervous system can produce detailed images of the bat's surroundings. This allows bats to detect, localize, and classify their prey in darkness. Bat calls are some of the loudest airborne animal sounds, and can range in intensity from 60 to 140 decibels. Microbats use their larynx to create ultrasound, and emit it through the mouth and sometimes the nose. The latter is most pronounced in the horseshoe bats. Microbat calls range in frequency from 14,000 to well over 100,000 Hz, extending well beyond the range of human hearing, which is between 20 and 20,000 Hz. Various groups of bats have evolved fleshy extensions around and above the nostrils, known as nose leaves, which play a role in sound transmission. Now about their vision. Well, some people believe that bats are blind, but in reality, no species is blind. Most microbats have myopic vision, meaning that they can only detect light in low levels, whereas other mammals have photopic vision, which allows color vision. Microbats may use their vision for orientation, and while traveling between their roosting grounds and feeding grounds, as echolocation is only effective over short distances. Some species can detect ultraviolet. As the bodies of some microbats have distinct coloration, they may be able to discriminate colors. Thank you. If you like the video, then subscribe this channel and click the notification bell icon so that you can get notified about more.